Peace. This is Jamal Robinson with 720astrology.com. Today's date is April 7th, 2024. At the time of recording this is 1:17 p.m. Central Standard Time. This is another discussion about the total solar eclipse in Aries that will occur tomorrow, April 8th. It will begin at 12:23 p.m. Central Standard Time. Make adjustments for your time zone. But this discussion is about the significance of the number 19. And I'm going to go into some other information, or I'm going to go into a message or download I received out of my bloodline, ancestral download. And I'm going to talk about why one of the reasons that this eclipse is so significant for me. This is where we begin. 2021. We have this huge blizzard down here in Texas. And I mean, this is probably the worst one that I think I've witnessed in I've been here 22 years now. And I think that was the worst one I've seen in my time here in Texas. And it shut the Metroplex down. It crippled us, and there were all types of damage, and had a lot of residual lasting effects. But we were fortunate. My wife works in the medical profession, and so she doesn't have the luxury of just, I won't go to work today. So we knew the blizzard was coming, so we left the night where it first started to come down. And we were fortunate to get to Dallas, downtown Dallas, before it got bad. And the hospital had reserved rooms for their employees at the Renaissance Hotel. So I'm always one who's guilty of looking for meaning and significance all around me. That's kind of how spirit speaks to me. My environment speaks to me. And so I pull up to Renaissance, and my mind's already thinking address is 2222, and it's the name Renaissance. And Renaissance means rebirth. And I was definitely still in that phase, trying to survive that Saturn Uranus square, which for me, when Saturn squared Uranus, it also formed a T square, a fixed T square in my chart. I was going through it, but that just arriving at that hotel gave me some hope, just because I said it's not happenstance that we're arriving here at the Renaissance, rebirth. Well, we end up staying on the 19th floor, and I'm looking at 19 again, like, for what's the significance of the 19th floor? And one thing I want to say is that a lot of times we may take certain symbols as just happenstance or mere coincidence, when it is not a mere coincidence. It is an important coincidence, together, same time, incident happening, something happening at the same time, which we should not just relegate to happenstance. Coincidences are important. They are significators. They are means of spirit to speak to us, our ancestors to speak to us, and to give us direction. Sometimes we need hope. Sometimes we need correction. Sometimes we need to be redirected, and a multitude of other things. But if we pay attention, a lot of times our surroundings are speaking to us. We make it through that. We survive. We get back home. Thankfully, none of our pipes had burst. And, but interestingly, the next year, 2022 or 2021, my youngest sister transitioned in the summer of that year, and she was only 39. Then the following year, my grandmother transitioned. And what is so significant about hers is that she was 91, which is the reversal of 19. And before she transitioned, she saw the headshot that I put everywhere on my social media. When she saw that headshot after I took it, she said, how did she say it? She said, his eyes are shining. And she said, I can see God in him. And so I felt like my grandmother was sanctioning whatever my efforts were and the movements I was taking going forth and the direction I was going in that I didn't even know where it would take me, but I was moving. So I didn't take that as something insignificant. Her saying it, I see God in his eyes, and his eyes are shining. And again, she transitions at 91. When we see things, symbols, so forth, sometimes the answer is not going to be immediate. Sometimes it's going to take a while, sometimes years for us to get the full scope of the symbolic message that's being conveyed at the moment. Spirit does not work on human time, it works on divine time. And that's sometimes a bitter pill to swallow. But either way, here, 2024, reflecting back and looking at that 19 Renaissance, I have a more rounded perspective. And to show that, I'm going to go to the whiteboard and we're going to look at the reflection of 19 to 91, those two reflecting each other, and see if we can gain some insight. Okay. 19, the number 19 in Hebrew adds up to, for one, this very familiar name. And there's a restaurant chain that bears this name, Chava. Chava is the Hebrew equivalent of Eve. Chava. It's a hit, a va, and a hey. And Chava or Eve means life. So yeah, there was significance to being on the 19th floor. Because 19 is Eve, i.e. life. Renaissance, rebirth. Rebirth means to relive. Another word that has the same meaning is what I just spelled is Malkut. And Malkut means kingdom, and it also means earth. Seek ye first the kingdom, seek ye first Malkut, seek ye first earth. Now, Malkut has a numeric value of 496. If you reduce that, 9 and 6 is 15, 15 and 4 is 19. So this 19 here is carrying a symbolic message around life and the animating energy of life and around the kingdom, the earth, reestablishing the kingdom, i.e., reestablishing life or being reborn, or from a religious Christian standpoint, being born again. Now, the reverse, let's look at the reverse. The reverse would be 19. I'm sorry, the reverse would be 91. And by 91, we have the reflection of 19. A word associated with that has the vibration of 91 is mem, nun, aleph. And that is manna, which is also divine nourishment. Another word, amin or amen, which means so it is, so be it. Amin also means hidden. Then we have finally mane, same letters as manna, and it means numbered. Now that numbered really grabs me because I've talked about in another video how nombre, is name. To have a number is to have a name. Number is an identity. So to be numbered is to have an identity, to be differentiated. Also to be counted as one of. Identity differentiation is Aries, where the north node is, where the eclipse is happening, where the sun is currently. I mean, so be it, so it is, which means that what is said is done. What is said will be. So here we have the opposite of the Aryan. We have the Libran aspect, which is the fate. Aries is the will, WILL. The rising. Libra is the receiving, the reception. the fall, fate. It is the Amin. So be it. The manna is the nourishment. How do we put all this together? And how are they reflecting that energy of 19 Chava, which is life, animating principle, and also the kingdom? These two are reflecting each other. For there to be life, I must have an identity. To have an identity, I must have the animating principle of life. If I have no knowledge of self, I'm not really living. I'm dead. And my knowledge of self is nourishment. And with nourishment, I am revitalized, revigorated, i.e., life. I'm alive. And I am alive so that I can nourish myself. I am alive so that I can act. And by me acting, the actions I take crystallize. So it is. So be it. I mean, sometimes we don't realize that the actions we are taking at a particular time may seem like nothing, but over time, we will see the results of the actions we have taken. And this 1991 axis, where they are reflecting, gives us some insight into this phenomenon of a cause producing an effect. This 19 is also going back to 2005 because 19 is the cycle that the nodes move in. The nodes return back to wherever they were, or they make a complete cycle every 19 years. So back in 2005, when we had the last solar eclipse at 19 degrees of Aries, where were you in life? What were you doing? What were you initiating? What cycle were you closing? Here in 2024, we're considering the same questions. We're pondering the same things. What did I initiate in 2005? What was it preparing me for? How have I grown over these last 19 years? Because now is reflecting back to then, and then is also providing sustenance for the cycle that I am starting right now. All cycles are feeding on the last one. And what we do between the start of a cycle and the end will be the manna that will carry over and feed us in the upcoming cycle. I want to show something. I want to show the natal chart for the business I started in 2004, a year before the eclipse in 2005, a year and a day to be exact. Okay, you're now looking at the natal chart for GymWorks. That was the name of my fitness business, GymWorks. April 7th, 2004, 12:01 p.m. Central Standard Time, Dallas, Texas. The time here is when I filed the DBA. And so I got the stamp on the paperwork. So that's what I use to cast this chart. Whenever we're giving birth to something, one of the things we look for is where's the sun? And here in this chart, the sun is prominent. It's in the 10th house and it's exalted in Aries. In addition to that, the sun is trine Pluto. So it says I would have great resilience in this business. Now, I wasn't studying astrology back then. This is all hindsight. But in hindsight, I see that it was a fortunate time to take this step, just divine guidance. But everything comes to an end. And you can see here that Chiron is in Capricorn. I'm not going to go through and delineate this, but there's some type of wound here that may play out around relationship. And yeah, that happened with this business and life in general for me. North Node was in Taurus. So you see, we just now completed the Taurus Scorpio axis in 2023. But what's most significant about this chart is that on the day I filed the DBA, which happened to be my aunt's birthday, she was born April 7th, 1935. It's my aunt Leela May. And today is her birthday. She transitioned at 85 and she had had a bad stroke years before, but she lived quite a long time after the stroke. I'm thinking probably at least, I don't know, maybe almost 15 years after. Um, and so I didn't plan to file this DBA on her birthday. It just so happened. But as I look back and reflect, this always brings her to mind. Like this time is very significant, not just for me, but for my family, because this is one of our loved ones. But it just so happens that this year, it is even more significant because it is here on the cusp of the most talked about and recognized eclipse that I've witnessed in my 47 years. There is a lot of big energy, and I personally feel that the energy is around renewal. Renewal. I want to grab a picture of my aunt. This is her as a young woman back in the 1950s. And you can see up here is my grandfather, uh, who he passed when she was probably like 2 years old. So she never really knew her father. My daddy was 6 months old. My daddy was the youngest. But this is the patriarch. This is John Robinson Sr. But yes, this is my Aunt Leela, April 7th, 1935. So I give honors to her. I also give honors to my sister, Camila. I give honors to my grandmother, Dorothy. I got to give honors to my father, Henry, my uncle, John, my brother, Gary, my grandmother, Mary, and I'll stop there. My uncle, Labib, my great grandmother, Hattie, my great great grandmother, Pay, my great great grandmother, Leela. I'll stop there. Ashe. But this birthday, I reach out to her son, my cousin Salam, and each year I always send him a text to acknowledge my aunt's birthday. And he sends back a message talking about his mother and how after her stroke, she displayed resilience, determination, and grace. Now, mind you, she's an Aries, April 7th, Aries. She displayed resilience, determination, and grace. Something told me, Spirit told me to go and look up these words, their etymology. And we'll start with determination. It's the first one I'm at. So, determination comes from the root ter, Roman numeral 3. So, ter is the family and subgroup Roman numeral 3. It means pass across, cut, break off, or through. Now, I want to share one of my teaching tools that I created. I created these 5, I think, superb handouts probably about 4 or 5 years ago, and I've got to reintroduce them to the world. So this is it. This particular one is called the Tree in Life. And what I do is go down and break down the symbolism of the tree, the branch, the leaf, the trunk, the soil. The birds represent or coincide with the Nephilim, those who fail. Well, the trunk of the tree is the heart of the tree, it's the centerpiece. And the word trunk comes from the same Indo European root as determination. Focus in there. You see, from the root, ter, 3, pass across, cut, break off, or through, bore through, Sanskrit, I'm sorry, reach a goal, reach a goal. I go on TikTok this morning, the video pops up. It says, finish what you started. Finish what you started. Reach a goal. Cut through. Break off. Bore through until you reach your goal. Now, I've been asking Spirit for some confirmation as to whether I should continue down the path I've been on. And it has been speaking through my cousin sending just those 3 words. That's coming out. That is Spirit speaking through the blood. This is ancestral. We, through Hollywood, we look at movies and we try to determine how magic works, and we're looking for to walk sideways on a building, but it's subtle. And for me, it has been. I have to be paying attention because Your ancestry can speak in manners that it's not like it comes like a cloud and a thunderclap and then my child, I have a message for you. So that's what Hollywood does us. We're looking for that type of experience when it can be, you got to be paying attention. It can use humans as vessels. So she spoke through him, and it was her. It was Leela because I needed this message right here around her birthday, the day before this eclipse, on the day when I filed my DBA for GymWorks. And you got to understand, I have mourned the loss of that business for the last 10 years because the business pretty much started to fizzle out around the time that the nodal axis had gotten halfway through its cycle. So that means when the North Node was in Scorpio, around that time is when the business started to die. And I didn't recognize that it was in a death spiral and was trying to hold on to something that was already dead. So it's taken me 20 years to get to this point, 19, 20 years from the start of that venture to now, to really have full perspective and to really know that this, what I'm doing, yeah, this is, I need to continue. So determination, cut through, pass across, bore through, reach a goal. All right. The other word, or one of the other words was resilience, and it comes from the cell root family, SEL, and its subgroup is Roman numeral 4, and it means to leap, gush out, quake. Now, here's what's interesting. When you go down and keep reading, it says Salion of the Sally, priest of the god Mars. My aunt is a Aries, which is ruled by Mars. Salion of the Sali, priest of the god Mars, from their leaping dances in the mimic warlike ritual. So I took this as another example of, okay, yeah, this is confirmation. This is confirmation. It's coming out of the blood. But the words to describe this leap, or to define this root, leap, gush out, quake. You go back, the hotel we were at is called the Renaissance, the rebirth, leaping out of the womb, gushing out of the womb. A quake, we just had an earthquake the other day, a quaking, a shaking, a trembling, denoting that something is coming. All right. Last word, grace. Grace comes from the root GAL, and it shares that root with GAR, GAL and GAR. Imitative of cry or shout. Latin, gallus, cock, the calling bird. Now, here's what's interesting about the calling bird. It's what triggered in my mind because the cock coincides with the coxes, as in, and the coxes, the peacock. The cox's bone is at the bottom of the tailbone. And the Quran says that after man is no more, is destroyed, or the cox's bone or the rump bone, what they call it, will still be there. So the cox's is considered to be indestructible. So by being indestructible, it is what remains from a previous cycle and carries on into a new cycle. So there's something about truth about the coxes. And the coxes would also coincide with the seed. You ever eaten certain fruits and you eat the fruit and then those seeds still, they're so hard? That's the coxes. You've destroyed the fruit, but the seed remains intact because the seed is necessary for rebirth. So this then led me to my little statue here of Kartikeya. And Kartikeya is a Hindustani deity, and you can see he's accompanied by the peacock right here. So Kartikeya is a warrior deity, and I would liken to, in some regards, to Mars. Mars rules over the root chakra. The coxes would be at the root chakra. So this is Kartikia. So this came to mind. Another thing that came to mind that I failed to mention about determination, about the tur and the breaking through and the cutting, breaking through, is that here in the tree of life, we have the fifth sephira, which is Gavora, which is severity. And you can see that the planet associated with Gavora is Mars. And severity, the root sever means to cut. For the baby to officially be in this world and have its own life and own identity, it must be cut from the mother's umbilical cord, i.e., it must be born. To me, this served to answer some of my quandaries, my questions, my wonderings, because even as a teacher, even as a leader, we sometimes have to question our direction. It's very important for me. I have to maintain a reasonable degree of even a smidgen of doubt. You know why? Because I'm so determined that if I that doubt, a smidgen of doubt allows me to entertain some reason because I can be compulsive. I can get so determined and I'm going to do something that I forego all reason. That's why I kept trying to salvage that business for so long instead of coming to the realization that it was gone and to immediately go into, well, what's my next step? I mourned. I stayed in mourning too long. So it's good to have a little bit of even a smidgen of doubt, keeps you grounded. But still, when you get the reassurance that the direction you are taking currently is the direction you're supposed to be taking, then this is the moment for courage. This is the moment for assertiveness. This is the moment to lead, to act, to emerge, to be born, to be reborn, renaissance. Okay, a final thing I want to talk about all of this is when the last time we had this eclipse, 2005, in Aries, 19 of Aries, I was dieting for my first bodybuilding competition. Now I know I talk about this stuff and I want to show something just to show that I'm not just talking, that this is a life that I've experienced and um which is why this is so significant right now, the energy we're in, because I'm back in that space of rebuilding my temple and rescuing a version of myself and using physical, rigorous activity and discipline to support the rebirthing process and the reconnaissance or the rescue mission to go and rescue Jamal, who kind of lost himself over the past few years. Which is why I always tell people you can take exercise, fitness, nutrition, and it is very much spiritual because you're having to go inside yourself and heal things and work through things. Because whenever you put yourself in a place of stress where you're forced to endure, it can bring the shadow up to the surface. As you're starting to filter your blood, filter your breath, and detoxify and let things exit, you're bringing not just food toxins, you're bringing emotional toxins, you're bringing psychological toxins, you're bringing all things up to the surface so you can recognize and release them with love. So I want to show you how I looked in 2006, a year after this eclipse. So we're talking this, the window here is 2004, 2006. This is a day after my competition. And I haven't looked at this thing in years, but I had to remind myself of where I've been. Remember, we're looking back over the last 19 years and we're trying to see what do we have to salvage from that to bring with us into this next cycle. It's the rump bone. It's the everlasting, indestructible aspect, the truth. What truth are we bringing forward? So check this out. That's me. 18 years ago. I still have clothes in my closet from the era when I was around that type of condition. And something has always told me not to throw them away because I mean they're still very nice stuff. That's why I don't buy a whole lot of um pricier, more high fashion, expensive things because something has always said I'm not giving up on what I got in my closet. So I've always been reluctant to pull that picture out. But I am doing it because the energy I feel it. I've been working quietly over the past few months. My wife and I, 'cause my wife used to be a competitor too, and we're getting ourselves reacclimated. And it takes a lot longer when you're close to 50, but determination, resilience, grace, determination, resilience, grace. It's running in my head. And I'm thankful that I have breath to be alive right now, to have completed this cycle, and to be here to have the chance to start this new one. So I am looking down the road with confidence, with faith, with hope, most importantly, with a knowing. For private readings, I'm available through my website, 720astrology.com. Know the stars to know yourself. Peace.